All right, and thanks for clicking into the video. Today I'm going to be doing some maintenance on my C6. Over the past handful of track days, going over a couple of the curbs, and then just the general street driving bumps. There's some things I want to work on and fix. So 2007 factory suspension, factory brakes with exception of pads and fluid. So I'm going to work on some of those items. We're going to replace the front and rear suspension with Bilstein shocks. Replace the front brake lines with Stop Tech braided lines and rears as well. And then going to replace my front lower ball joints with the Baer bump steer kit. I recognize that the bump steer kit is 100% not necessary for a stock height car. Fully aware of that. But in the next handful of years, I may be able to lower the car with my driveway and may end up going the coilover route to get lower. So trying to planning for the future. Otherwise, I've spent probably triple than what lower ball joints should cost. All right, so some of the things that I'm going to be putting on. Front shocks, rear shocks, front brake lines, rear brake lines, and the bump steer kit. I ended up getting all of this from Summit. I recognize that sometimes they don't have the best prices, but they do have very quick and reliable shipping, which also helps for these to sit in my garage for the last 3 weeks. Part numbers: front brake line, rear brake line, the bump steer kit, and then front shocks, and then rear shocks. There are plenty of other videos for C6 on putting these in. I think Kevin Jones has a couple of videos already on the exact same things. So this really isn't trying to show everyone exactly how to do stuff, but just the way I chose to do it. And that's about it. All right, so the first thing that I need to do is go ahead and get my quick jacks off the wall. I don't have the quick jack hanger kit, so I just use some 550 cord to make sure that they don't fall. I like to use a little bit of a Z pulley, just be able to make sure I'm able to get the tension that I want onto the quick jacks. Not required, but makes me feel safer. All right, so for the rear shock removal, I've already broken all these loose, but you've got two, I guess they're 13s, but a 1/2 inch fits better on them. You got two of those, one in the front, one in the back. Again, noting the location of that crescent. So what I do, I'm trying to juggle a couple hands here. Is I just put a Sharpie mark on the side that the crescent goes. It doesn't matter if it's here or here, but just to remind myself that it goes facing the front of the car. So once you get those out, then we'll come around to this 24 millimeter through bolt and go ahead and get that buzzed off, and we'll go ahead and compress the shock same way that I have seen other people do it. They use zip ties. I'm just going to use some paracord and a trucker's hitch. That seems to work well for me, and I don't waste any zip ties. All right, so instead of using zip ties, I prefer to use paracord. It's reusable. So all I've done is tied through the upper bolt and come down around the bottom of the shock. And all I've done is put a loop in it, and I'm just gonna pull this down, tighten it, and then I'll be done. Be able to pull it out. All right, so now we've got the shock out of the car. I'm just gonna undo my paracord, and all it is pulling this through. then it just extends out. If I want to, I can change how fast or stop it with relatively little force, unlike with a zip tie. So now we got a small wrench on. We can just go ahead. Alright, disassembly, top washer comes out, and alright, so when you get your shock out, this is the rear, comes with the shock, hardware, the other half of it, comes with a sticker, since apparently all people in the automotive industry or construction industries love stickers. So yeah, this is good assembled. Bottom cup, rubber, plates, and then go back in. Alright, so now we got the bracket back on the new shock. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and try to compress this shock. A lot of people use zip ties just to compress it down, hold it down, cut the zip ties at the end. To me, that uses a whole bunch of zip ties for really short purpose. So what I do is I just use a piece of paracord, thread in, and go ahead and tie that in place on one side. Doesn't need to be anything special or fancy. Just make sure that's secure. And as you go around the shock, you will have a loop. And I can go through that loop. And then now I've got a mechanical advantage on this, so I can put a whole lot less effort. And then once it's done, just add a simple cinch to this and it holds its place. Yep. So now we got the tension on it. All I'm doing is pinching the working side of the paracord, and I'm just making myself a little loop, and I'm going to come through. Snug that up, and then now this is going to be held in the compressed state, allowing me to get things in and lined up easily. And instead of like a zip tie, once you cut it, it's gone. This, you can just pull the working end, pull this loop out, and then ease it up into its place, give it a little bit more control. Alright, so now we can go ahead and get this shock bolted back up. I honestly don't know how the car YouTubers do filming and putting bolts in. And finding the right angle for it. All right, so we've got the lower bolt in. Just hand tight for right now. I've got my crescent facing the correct direction, lying with my Sharpie mark, and I can go ahead and remove this string. All right, so now we've got the lower bolt in. I've already undone part of the hitch, and I'm just easing this into place. I'm gonna use both hands. All right, now we've got the bolts started by hand. I'm gonna go ahead and run these in and go ahead and torque them to their specs for the top two, and then the big 24 millimeter down here. All right, switching over onto the front side. I've already done the passenger side and get on the driver's side. Most people only show the driver's side because it's the harder side. So to get to the nut, you got to remove your overflow reservoir on at least on this 07. I've got one, looks probably like a 10 millimeter here, and then I'm not sure if the flash is going to come on or not, but you got another 10 millimeter down here. So let's get those buzzed off, relocate this up out of the way, and get me access to the 15 mil underneath. So I think for everyone it's gonna be a little bit different if you're doing this on jack stands or you got a lift. I found that on my quick jacks in the middle height worked best, just because I've got to use my left hand on the ratcheting wrench, and then up on the top side, hold this adjustable just to spin it off. I would love to have something else to do this quicker. It's gonna take a hot minute to spin this off. All right, I've gone ahead and tied up this shock in the compressed form. I just got a couple bolts left. So we got 13 here, and then on the other side of the shock, there's another 13. It is a bolt, so on the bottom side through the lower control arm is a nut that you gotta hold while taking it off. I'm gonna go ahead and do this since it's a two-hand thing, and come back after this is on the bench. All right, I decided I'm gonna try to actually get this on camera for others. The other side has been not very fun, but once it's compressed as much as it can actually be compressed, you should have ample space to get it all the way out. That being said, if you aren't able to easily get it out, you're not compressed all the way. All right, so for the front assembly, we don't have to reuse that rear plate. So we're basically just gonna go cup side up, dish up, rubber. We're gonna have the car here, then rubber, cup, and nut. Let's go ahead and get in the car. And for those Chris Fix fans, out with the old, in with the new. One thing that I did notice on the other side, it makes it a lot easier to get things to align. To go ahead and jack up this control arm just a little bit to get your bolts through, and then you'll have the leverage to get it lined up. All right, so I still need to have suspension and whatnot settle out a bit, but car's back on the ground with the new shocks on. I'm not going to be quite that tucked up front. I still got a little bit more than a hand. I can't really go too low just because I do track this car and I'm worried about rubbing. Yeah, looks a little bit lower than when I had the stock shocks on, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Got to pull the car out this afternoon. My wife's car has a flat tire, so I'm gonna try to get that in here, pull it off, take it and the spare, which also has a nail in it, to get patched, hopefully today, if not tomorrow.